Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OCNJ Local, your podcast for everything happening here in America's greatest family resort. We're your hosts, Dominic Doherty and Drew Fazy.
And we are your local guys.
What's good, Drew? We missed last week. That was my fault. I wasn't feeling well. Did a lot of sleeping. So I'm glad to be back and behind the mic again.
Everybody's getting it, Dom. It's going around town.
Yeah, knock on wood, I didn't get it that bad. So, just a lot of sleeping a couple of days and feeling good. Saw the sun today for a few minutes here. It's Saturday when we're recording this, but feels like the first time we saw the sun in like a week.
It gets to me too, man.
You know what's crazy, man?
4 days without the sun, I start really feeling it.
Yeah, it does. It gets you for sure. I was amazed. I'm always amazed at how many people are in Ocean City this time of year. And I went for a walk with Lucy and the dog on the beach today, out front, like on the ocean. The beaches are in bad shape. Like in that middle section of beaches from like the Music Pier to 5th Street, bad shape.
Yeah, they got beat up.
The crazy thing though is how many people are here. Like I remember walking there like 10 years ago and there'd be nobody around for miles. I'd be lucky to see anybody. And now it's like, oh man, I got to bring my leash. Got to make sure, my dog's not jumping on people. It's like, it's cool. It's a double-edged sword. It's nice to see people. It's nice that people are still coming into town, for those shops that are open on the boardwalk. At the same time though, like it's freezing. I want my peace. Today you're out.
Part of that is post-pandemic, right? People that came down as a refuge during COVID. And
no, I think these are people just coming to visit for the day or they rented for the weekend or something. They just wanted to be in Ocean City for a little bit. I mean, who wouldn't want to be? Apparently it's the happiest place to live in New Jersey.
Yes, it is. It is.
So
I thought we would have been beaten out by the Oranges, but apparently not.
No, or maybe Camden or Trenton. Those are great places too.
Newark.
Yeah. Even AC close by.
Yes.
It's funny. There's a guy who has he promotes like Atlantic City on social media and his content's great. If you can find him, he's got some great merch. He's got a lot of great stuff. He just hates Ocean City though. And he put the survey out here. He's like, who the hell? Like he didn't really say it, but he made some good funny comments about, I don't like to trash people. I don't like to do anything or say anything bad, but unless it's Ocean City, screw that place. Like, but he used a different word. But I think it's funny. So
I'm gonna find him and troll him.
No, Drew, he's doing his thing. We're doing our thing. You got to respect him. He's got way more of an uphill battle than we do. Let's put it that way.
Yes, sir. He does.
So
he does.
I see his point though, man. Atlantic City has a ton of. It's called the Escape Plans, the.escape.plans on Instagram, and he puts out a lot of good, funny memes about Atlantic City and a lot of good comment. And like I said, he's got some pretty cool merch for Atlantic City. So. Shout out to the Escape Plans. Getting a little love from Ocean City, even though they don't give us any back. But, always out there to promote a fellow content creator to doing this thing and trying to bring any kind of positivity to the Jersey Shore. Speaking of Atlantic City, got this bad news this week. The battle at the beach got shifted over to Atlantic City for this year. Last year we had IMG Academy coming all the way up from Florida to play St. Joe's Prep, sold like 10,000 tickets. And then this year, boom, we're in Atlantic City. And ironically, I remember Atlantic City being at the Battle of the Beach, talking with the West Jersey Football League about bringing it over there and thinking like the West Jersey Football League's got to be crazy to leave this venue to go to Atlantic City High School.
Well, so apparently it's a 1-year deal. It will be back in Ocean City. Hopefully it's not written in stone, but the Philadelphia Catholic League schools play a couple games at Carey Stadium the weekend before Labor Day.
It's the weekend of Labor Day this year. That's what it was.
No. Well, Battle of the Beach is weekend of Labor Day.
basically, yeah. So from what I read in the Daily, and what Coach Kevin Smith, the head football coach here in OC, said was that his season starts later this year, and that the city does host those Catholic League games that weekend of Labor Day, and the Battle of the Beach was that day as well too. So everybody got kind of jammed up, and that's why they had to head over to AC. So it wasn't a venue, or I saw a lot of people on social media originally saying parking issues and things like that. It wasn't anything like that. It was just
it was scheduling. Yeah, it was a scheduling issue. Yeah.
So,
hopefully it comes back.
Yeah, Kevin said he felt if at the end of the article, he said if they did a good job, the league might keep it there. I don't know. Atlantic City, good job, don't really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
My dog wants to come in and hang out.
Yeah, we'll see. So let's get into it. I have a couple shout outs to start.
Sure, go ahead.
The first one is so the city has taken over or will on February 1st. The city will be taking over managing the senior center at the community center. The senior center, since its inception, was run by the county, Cape May County, and the city is now taking it over. And to that end, Councilman Karen Bergman on Thursday night resigned her city council seat to take over a management position with the city to run the senior center. So I wanted to give a shout out to Karen, thank her for her service as the longest tenured council person, and wish her well running the senior center. I have to tell you, so my oldest sister goes to the senior center, and I think there's a lot of buzz down there about the city taking it over and doing a better job than the county has done for the last couple of years. And I think Karen's the perfect person for that. And I think she's going to do a great job. So shout out to Karen. We're going to have more on that. We're going to have a guest in the next couple of weeks, I believe, from the city to talk about that. But I wanted to briefly give a shout out to Karen. Second shout out is to a local photographer. And this is kind of out of the blue. There's no real reason for this, Dom, but I wanted to do this. Carrie Janto. Carrie is
last night.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Great person. She's got a bunch of kids in the school, and Carrie's a great photographer. She takes family photos on the beach and all that kind of stuff, and she's awesome. But Carrie follows her kids through sports, including the OCYA, the local baseball program, the Junior Raiders football program, and the Ocean City High School. And Carrie donates all of her photos to the organization. And if your child is involved in the program and you get to see these photos of your child playing baseball, your child playing football, it's a great element. And it's really super generous of her to do that. And it kind of goes to show the type of person that Carrie is. We're friends. I really like Carrie. And so I wanted to give her a shout out. And I think it's well deserved. Wouldn't you agree, Dom?
Yeah, 100%. She always has some really great photos. Always putting out good stuff. If you want to see her work or get in touch with her, give me 1 second here. I'll pull up her information because she always pops up at the top of my Kerry, KERRIJ photography on Instagram. So that's Kerry, KERRIJ RRIJ Photography on Instagram. You can see some of her work. It looks like she posted some really cool stuff when we had the snow here a little while back. And I'm sure on her page you can see some of her live action photography as well too.
So if you have an event,
today, by the way, I'll try.
Or you have if you have an event or you want family photos, she's the best.
Cool.
All right, so we have a couple of guests tonight. I think we get to them, Dom.
Sure. Yeah, let's. First guest will be Councilman Jody Lovecheck.
No, our first guest will be Paul Carlin.
Oh, Paul's coming on first?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were going to end with Paul.
No, we're starting.
Okay.
With Paul. Yeah,
no problem. So I was wrong. My bad. Apologize. A little pre-production miscommunication there on my end. We're going to have Paul Carlin first. He recently posted in one of the OC Facebook groups a pretty cool song he wrote about Ocean City. So we'll have him when we come back from break. So stick around. All right, everyone, welcome back. With us is Paul Carlin, singer-songwriter, who recently posted a great video of his song that he wrote about Ocean City in the summertime. Paul, thanks for being here with us. We really appreciate you taking the time to join the podcast.
No problem. Thanks, Dom and Drew, for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity.
Paul, where's home for you?
Malvern, PA.
Malvern. And what's your connection to Ocean City?
Just started going as a kid. Parents took us down. The whole family went down, really. Always stayed on either West or Asbury. And just fond memories as a child going down, and continued it with my family. My daughter's 12 now, and we go down every year her entire life. She's vacationing in Ocean City, and she always says, "Why would you want to go to Disney when you can go to Ocean City, New Jersey?" And to me, she's right.
Good stuff.
Smart girl. So, I was trolling social media one day and I heard your song. I was like, Drew, we got to get this guy on. It's a great song. So without further ado, Paul, we'll turn it over to you. And what's the name of your song again? I believe it's called Asbury Avenue, correct?
Asbury Avenue, yes.
Awesome. So here's our first ever musical guest on the OCNJ Local.
That's right.
Paul Carlin with his original song, Asbury Avenue.
Pack your bags, bring the dog, a week's holiday rehab. From the boards to the bay, it's all one state of mind. Oh, the summer's a maze for Asbury Avenue. Walking down the shoreline, collecting shells as we go. Warm sun is at our backs, ocean salty wind blows. Pedal down the 5 and 10, grab an ice cream cream. Just a few things we'd like to do in OC, New Jersey. Pack your bags, get the dog, now it's time to go home. Had the time of our lives till the next time to go. Oh, the summers were made for Asbury Avenue.
All right, man. Awesome.
That is awesome, Paul. I think you capture the feel of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of families who come down to Ocean City, year after year. That's a great job, man.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
So
Paul,
one thing, Paul, when you make it big,
big in my basement.
Dom and I want front row and backstage passes.
You got it. You guys were the ones that put me on the scene, so thanks.
And Paul, where can people find more of your music? Are you out there on Spotify?
I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Paul Carlin Music.
Awesome. So that's
all one word, Paul Carlin Music.
Perfect. So if you want to hear more from Paul, he's on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Paul Carlin Music, all one word.
And
so
all
check out
services, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music.
Awesome. So those of you listening on Spotify, iTunes right now, just hit that search bar, Paul Carlin Music, all one word, and check out the rest of his catalog. So awesome, great. Paul. Thanks for taking the time to be here.
Thanks, Paul.
Music for sure. And we'll be right back with our next guest, City Councilman Jody Lovechek.
We'll be following you, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. God bless. I'll see you in the summer.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. With us is Councilman Jody Lovechek. Jody, thanks for taking the time to be here with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Fantastic. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing good, man. Just had some great music from our new friend Paul Carlin, and excited to hear a little bit more about the survey you put out to your ward here. It was something that not a lot of politicians really have the courage to do. Really ask their voters and the people they represent what they're looking for and what they want and how to improve things. Generally, it's always a top-down type leadership, and you really went to the people. So hats off to you for having the courage to do that and, really trying to find what your voters want and what the people of the city need.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun thing to do. Ocean City is a unique situation where we're not just, any average town where we have to, run the politics of the town. We're a bit different, mainly, of course, because we're in a guest service industry, and you have a lot of different types of people that are here. You have your residents, who, of course, are the most important here, and then you have your second homeowners, and then you have your guests, and quite a few different things in between that as well. And so, getting the perspective of each of those, even though it's really the locals that are here that we're getting the most out of the town and putting the most into it each day. You really want to know what the people who are have an interest. Those others have an interest in this town as well, whether it's to come here just for a day to visit or to own a shore home and make this their tranquility type vacation for the whole summer, or just to rent it out. You have so many different types of folks that are interested in Ocean City. So I thought it would be interesting to see, how do I take the top 10 or 11, I didn't want to make it too detailed and too long. How do I take the top 10 or 11 things that I get approached about or spoken to the most and put it into a format where I can make it, kind of super simple, where we can collect some data, get it out there and really be able to look at it and say, hey, 80% of people think this, while 50% of people think that. Is this an official survey that, was done by the government? And no, this was a simple survey that was done by me personally. It went out to my Facebook contacts and whoever follows that, and it went out to my email distribution lists for my business and wherever else anybody else may have shared it. So we got over 2,500 responses, which was a lot more than I was expecting. And, some people, we put some security onto that, onto the questionnaire where you couldn't take it twice. I mean, you could if you really tried. You had to go log in with a different email address from a different IP address and things like that. But I don't think this is one of those things where somebody would be inclined to even want to think to do something like that, to take it twice. this is one of those things where I wanted the questions to really resonate with somebody like immediately when they would hear it. For example, one of the first questions I asked after I asked the folks, because I wanted to dissect the information down. The first thing I asked was, are you a local? How do you identify with Ocean City? So it was either you're a local, you're a second homeowner, you're a guest, or you're a business owner. And so I have the results as a summary of all of those 2,500 plus responses, as well as I have the capacity to be able to say, hey, here's what only second homeowners thought. And I reported it out 5 different ways. So at my ward meeting last week, I reviewed these answers, but I only used the report that was the sum of everybody. I didn't go by just locals or just second homeowners, because I really had a mix. I don't think I had many tourists or any at my ward meeting, but I certainly had second homeowners who really appreciated the input from them, because it's not often that the second homeowner is asked, and it's for common sense reasons. They can't vote for you, so
but they have skin in the game, and I think they were probably very appreciative that you included them. And the other thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned your business. I think we have to give a shout out, Dom, right?
Yeah, we do.
Jody is the principal of Jilly's, has a number of different businesses, both up on the boardwalk as well as on Asbury Avenue.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Jody just dropped out. Drew, you want to shoot him a message, let him know he can click that link again and come back in. Oh, he's back. He figured it out.
Okay.
I would assume he's tech savvy, especially with the way he collected that data to break it down.
Yeah.
I mean, we really all know it's only the native's opinion that matters. So,
the natives
survey all you want.
Yes, the natives,
you don't
not
get
the
grace
locals,
of the natives.
but the natives.
They're going to be restless, more restless than usual, I should say.
I think he should have had another category of Airbnbers.
He could have.
All right, Jody's back.
He's back.
I'm not sure what happened or where you lost me, but I thought it was a good time to do this, considering that I'm still in my first term, and these are things that I do as a business owner in town. Also, I really like to ask people's opinions, and I deal with a lot of tourists and a lot of second homeowners as pretty much as throughout the day of working on the boardwalk. So I'm used to getting feedback from them and kind of drawing off of it, if you will. But here for Ocean City, it's of course the primary residence is the most valuable to me, and but we have to look at what second homeowners and what those guests think, because we have to keep them coming back here and keep them interested in making their purchase in this town. It's why the majority of the success is here, is because of we have that mixed bag of tricks of different types of folks who come here. So focus on keeping that healthy is really, really important to me. And when you look at the survey itself and you look at the questions, pretty much everybody that's took it, that the idea was, that's why I called it a 60-second survey, was you look at the question and you kind of know right off the top of your head what the answer is. I didn't want people looking at it and saying, well, what do I really think? I wanted their honest, right away feedback into it. And if you wanted to go through it, as we go through it, I'll kind of indicate to you, there might be a question or two in there that, of course I put it together, and, I like to take a look at when I do things and go back and improve. So the next time I do a survey, some of these questions I might change a little bit different, because, well, you'll see if you want to go through it, and I'll indicate.
Yeah, let's go through it.
I think was a very good question with great feedback we got off of. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I don't know if one of you guys want to share your screen, because you could actually pull it up right on here. I have it living on my website where it's very easy to be able to see and go through.
Drew, am I allowed to venture off into the World Wide Web right now without?
Well, it's going to have to be
yelled at now,
because if it involves tech, it's going to have to be you.
I know. That's hence why I'm making sure it's okay for me to go.
So while he's doing that, Jody, Dom and I have talked about this before. So coming up in May are the 4 ward council person elections, and you are in the 3rd ward, and you'll be running again in May.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll be making an official announcement about it in the coming weeks, but the plan is to do it.
Okay. So I hope I didn't let the cat out of the bag there. And then I earlier in the show I gave a shout out to Karen Bergman, who resigned her position. Is it my understanding, Jody, that she's an at-large council person, that her seat will also be on the ballot in May?
That's right. That's
It
right.
will.
So
Okay, so that's not normal. Normally, it's just the 4 wards, but because she resigned, they're going to put.
Yep. So it'll be for a 2-year seat as opposed to a 4-year. So it'll expire when the other 2 at-large seats expire. But there does need to be an election. You can't have an appointment go for longer than a certain period of time.
Understood. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Never shared screens before, so let's see how this works here. I'm hoping it's just like every other technology I've ever used.
If you go to Jody and then the number 4 council.com, jodyforcouncil.com, and you scroll down to the bottom, actually there's even a button right up at the top there where you can hit that and it'll bring you right into it. And what I have posted on here is this is the data of the summary. This is exactly what I presented at my ward meeting. It's a little bit tedious, to look at because like I said, there's 5 different ways to look at this data. It's a little tedious to toggle from one to the other to the other. So I figured, let me put just this one up here for now. I could easily upload and share the other one.
I find it interesting that almost 50% of the people who filled it out were visitors.
Yep, and that's probably due to the fact that I have a huge distribution list for Jilly's on the boardwalk, and we blasted this to our distribution list. So I purposely wanted second homeowners and vacationers. It's an important thing to look at. So you can see how they broke down here, and that's good that you saw that. Roughly half of the folks that answered this are visitors or vacationers they identify as, and you'll see where that becomes meaningful in the data. I'm a numbers geek. So when I do things like this, I want to know that I'm looking at real data, that I'm looking at real numbers, that it's not something that is haphazard or has a huge margin of error or something like that. I really want it to be meaningful. So when you look at this, that's key, the 50%. So if you go into the next question there, okay.
That was question 1.
One moment.
How were you associated with Ocean City? Question 2 is Ocean City, New Jersey has stable and affordable property taxes.
So question, Jody, do these colors follow through? Like, so does the green was always just the top color, or does that represent what the homeowners and locals, natives have to say?
Oh, no. There's no differentiation here between who answered how. This is a summary of the complete response. So there were 25. If you look, you'll see there were 2,578 responses total between everybody. Where almost 50% of them were second homeowners, right? So now this is the first real question. And if you look at this, see where it says neither agree nor disagree in the middle there, almost 50%. Well, I guarantee you the majority of those are tourists.
Yeah.
Because they don't know or care. Yeah,
right.
Visitors. They don't know or care about our local property taxes. So that's why they probably deferred to go middle of the road there, with that type of answer. So, that's one of the indicators to me to show, hey, this is the ratio of how people identified. This is how the answers went. And that makes sense to me, that statistic there in the middle, that number. So playing off of that, you can see if you add up agree and strongly agree, that's a pretty significant number of people who chose to agree that we have fair property taxes, as opposed to those who don't agree. You know, it's a good, healthy difference there to feel pretty confident in our property taxes. And by the way, Ocean City is of the lowest property taxes in the state of New Jersey, and we have some of the greatest government local benefits to the community. You know, with free this, free that. That I see a lot of towns, and there's not many that have what Ocean City has as far as quality.
And just our services. I think our services are fantastic. They're really superior. So when you line that up against the amount of taxes we pay, it's just a home run for property owners.
Oh, our services are fantastic. It's obvious. Our police and fire. I find a better fire and police department than Ocean City has. I think you could say the best place actually to have a heart attack is in Ocean City, because we have a 2-minute fire department response time, and we have a great hospital right over the bridge. So, it's a great community for that. And, and everybody wants
trash collection, recreation, being a safe city. It's our recreation facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All part of the reason I chose to move here. And of course, our schools, a lot of our tax funding goes directly to our schools. Yeah. So, and we also, a lot of people don't realize this, the city of Ocean City, I think the number, Drew, is 22. I think the city operates 22 different types of businesses within the city, within the municipality. So you need a big chunk of staff and a big team to be able to facilitate that. So, a lot of municipalities don't have that and don't need to have that. So, we conquer in that. We do a great job there.
Yeah. Okay, question 3. Parking in many of our neighborhoods and business districts is a challenge.
It sure is.
And look at the numbers. The numbers.
Survey says, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a pretty staggering number, actually. And that's something that this was on the top when I decided to run for city council and look at what are some of the problems that Ocean City faces as we move into the future. I'm very familiar with the parking issue, and and it's one that's going to continue to get worse if something isn't done about it. And I got a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of other ideas that are out there that aren't necessarily mine, or just similar to mine. And I think you're going to see in the near future in Ocean City some, let's just say I'm confident that with some of the changes that we have coming in a couple of years from now, if we reran this survey, I think you'd see better results.
So for those listening and not watching, if I'm looking at these numbers correctly, somewhere in the 85% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed that parking is an issue.
That's right.
About right, 85%.
Yeah,
big number.
Yeah, and if you want to compare it to the people who don't agree, you're looking at 5-6% there. And this is, this is one of those questions. What I really liked about this is that this is one that really pertains to everybody: the second homeowners, the guests, the residents, everybody. And believe me, I'm not glad to see. I'm glad, but I'm not glad to see. Of course, you don't want to see 85% of people taking your survey indicate that there's a problem there, like what we have here. But what's good about this is that it shows that we have a ton of room for improvement. And we're doing so great in Ocean City right now with getting people here and getting them to want to be here. If we're able to figure out this parking situation here, that's a huge area of improvement, especially when we get to one of our, you'll see there's another question in this survey as we dial down that has to do with parking, and it'll make sense. I'll finish discussing the parking when we get to that next question. It'll all come together.
Okay. Question number 4. My family and I feel very safe in Ocean City.
Yeah,
again, we're looking at, it's actually even higher. It might be 92%. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
92%.
93% say
is
they
a
feel
combination of
here.
Agree and strongly agree that they feel safe.
And I got to tell you, I'm glad that there is a higher number for that than there is for the people who think we have a parking problem. That's for sure. But this is another one of those questions where it's, I want to know from particularly guests that are coming here. We don't want people to feel that inferior to come here for any sort of reason, especially a safety concern. And we just don't have that. We are the type of town that you can feel comfortable letting your young not just your teenagers, your young teenagers go walk on the boardwalk and go and enjoy themselves and learn how to go make their first purchase with their friends and, really just have a good time. And you can't say the same. I don't want to name any other municipalities, but you can't say that in almost any other municipality, beach resort. Ocean City, super special, super unique in that regard. And I'm glad to see, for the 2 or 3% there that disagree, I'm not sure what happened on their street or, somewhere along the line during their time in Ocean City, but I'm hoping to see this number actually go even higher. You can never be too safe.
I think that the disagree, they might have been Dom's neighbors, but that's just a guess.
Most likely.
Question 5. Flooding.
A lot of weird stuff's actually happened in my neighborhood since this survey, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Question 5. Flooding.
Quite a few interesting Memorial Days.
Flooding is an issue on my street or neighborhood more than a couple of times a year.
Yep, and this is, again, you're going to take a look at this question. It really is relevant to not everybody. So, and that is apparent. Again, this is how you look at the statistics and people answer truthfully, because if you don't live in Ocean City and you're visiting for the day, you don't care about this question, which is why nearly half the people played the middle of the road here.
Yeah.
I feel like folks that answered this question and you would see that when you look at just tourists, the majority of them, when you look at that report on its own, it's in the neither agree nor disagree. So, but, some could argue flooding may not be as bad as everybody, says that it is, because I was expecting to honestly see this number be about 30% or higher. And we're not at 30%. We're getting there, but I thought that this was going to be bigger than it was. And there's not a huge variable difference between people who agree with this and people who don't agree with it. So I'm glad to see that.
At about a 2% difference between those that agree, give about 28%, and those that disagree, about 26%. So,
yeah, part of that could be where you live on the island, right? And part of that could be, a little bit of common sense that you have to expect some minor tidal flooding if you're living on a barrier island.
Absolutely. It's called, what do we call it? Nuisance flooding. It's a barrier island. And one thing that I've learned, and of course I'm no engineer and no flooding expert or anything like that, but we do a lot of flooding projects. It's one of the largest capital expenses that we have on our budget lines for city count for the Ocean City. And so you want to be really careful too. You don't want to overdo it with the flooding when you know that you're a barrier island and you're going to get wet. You're going to collect water. And what you don't want to do is go spend, I'm just going to make up a number, we'll say millions of dollars. You don't want to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on a project where you have water here and you were able to find a way to remove that water, but now the water just sits a block north from where it was, or a block west, or what have you. And that's where you got to be really careful, because it just has to go somewhere. Sure. So I think the city's done a great job over time, particularly over the last dozen years or so with flood mitigation. I don't think there was really any concern for flood mitigation, 15 years ago and from prior administrations that are in office. So it's been a big topic. It's been a big thing. And you're never going to completely do away with it. It is what it is. The water's got to go somewhere. And when the bay is this high and there's no way for the water to go out to the bay because it's full,
that's right.
It's a matter of displacing it to where do you want the water to sit?
I'd have to agree with you, Jody, over the last, 10 or 15 years, 10 or dozen years, the administration and the city council has done a really good job being aggressive in these flood mitigation projects.
Sure. Yep. And it's something that we're going to keep doing. It's important, and discovering how it happens. And when you get technology too, which is pretty cool, there's a technology for any of you geeks out there. It's called LiDAR. and the city actually did we hired a company to come and do a LiDAR scan, I think is the terminology, of our entire island. And it's pretty cool how if you look at this from a bird's eye view, when you look at this LiDAR scan, it indicates to you exactly where the lowest points are and where the highest points are as far as groundwater on the island. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
So,
it is cool.
Yep, that's something.
Is that available to the public?
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly how you would get to it, but since the city paid for it, it is available to the public.
Cool.
So by default, it is. I get back to you about how you get a hold of it.
I need to send that to my flood insurance company because flood insurances are going up 25% a year now. It's pretty wild.
Yep. Well, the flood insurance is actually something that's done through through FEMA, through the state, and it's pretty complicated. But I can tell you this: the city itself. This was not too long ago. It was after Sandy, though. Negotiated with FEMA and the state. This all has to do with your zoning rules as well. So because we have such strict rules in place with how high to build a property, for example. That's going to mitigate that home from getting destroyed by any kind of floodwaters when it's built at certain elevations in certain parts of town. And that also helps mitigate, what your policy is going to be, of course. So Ocean City has done a really, really good job as far as that's concerned. The other side of that is a lot of people think that the construction is too big now and the houses are too tall. And, that's another question in here. But a lot of that has to do with not just because we're letting people build these mansions, and it's not that they're so tall, it's that they need to be elevated in some cases, like my house, 12 feet off the ground. So, my first floor doesn't start until I'm higher than a basketball net.
Right.
Everything below me is a waste. So it's air. So if we could go lower, my roof would be lower. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Question 6. I would shop / visit the Ocean City NJ downtown and/or boardwalk more often if parking was not an issue.
Yep. So this is
that these
question
numbers are overwhelmingly agree and strongly agree.
Yeah. This is and this is something that I've been walking around with. Sometimes you just know because of your profession and because of what you do for a living, and you're just well educated in what goes on around you, and you don't necessarily need a survey to know what people are thinking. And this is one of those things. I've been told time and time and time again in the 20 plus years that I've been a business owner on this boardwalk that man, it's a shame there wasn't a better parking situation. I would come here more often with my kids. I would come here and I didn't need to see it on paper here, but I wanted to see it. I'm glad that it came back this way because again, this is one of those things that is, I think it's critical to hearing from everybody, locals, second homeowners, tourists, when it comes to this. And it's clear as day here. And, I'm excited to see how the businesses will prosper once we have established a better parking situation. And, I truly believe, I've been saying this a long time, Ocean City is ripe for a parking deck or a parking structure, we'll call it, that is centralized within our town, where it gives access to our city hall, it gives access to our downtown, gives access a little further away from the boardwalk, but the boardwalk's worth walking to from a central location here. Sure, I would love to see a parking deck right at the boardwalk also.
Sure,
but just if we're talking about a parking structure and we're looking to improve the thoughts of parking to the city in general, you're never going to hear a no out of me when it comes to a downtown parking structure. I truly believe we need it. I truly believe we have a way to do it, and it's just a matter of getting all of our getting organized around it the proper way. But I think we'll get there.
Great. Okay, question 7. Windmills off the coast of Ocean City will negatively impact our property values and tourism.
I would have never believed it myself when I first heard about it in the newspaper, 10 years ago or something like that. But,
and again, overwhelmingly, people agree with that.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly.
When this first came out, I want to say 8 years ago or something like that. It was the headline I remember was windmills will be 15 miles or so off the coast of New Jersey. This is great, for green energy and things like that. And I really paid it no mind until I was about 2 months into my being elected as a city council member, and Ørsted had come and presented to us their plan for the windmills, as well as their lease with the state of New Jersey and the federal government. And pretty much all they needed from us, from Ocean City, was to pass an ordinance allowing them to run their infrastructure under our island to be able to connect into the mainland. And after sitting there and listening and not knowing much about the project, only from what Ørsted told me, it's pretty wild that, they were supposed to be there to convince us about all the positives of this project and why it would be a good idea for Ocean City to adapt it. And all they did was convince me otherwise. It was a pretty interesting,
no kidding.
It was a pretty interesting showcase, and all they really did was convince me otherwise. But the thing is, when it comes to governing, especially in this type of government, in a nonpartisan style government that we have, local politics, it's not about what I think. I could sit there and think the project stinks all day long, but if our community wanted this, and if our community embraced this, I would be more open to it. It would be a different story because my vote represents that of my district. But it's quite obvious, anybody I talk to around town, there's always one or two people, but the vast majority, in my head, it was higher than the number that I see here. But all in all, it's the vast majority of those who are against it. And it's pretty interesting, too, when you take a look to see, well, who's against it the most? The locals or the second homeowners or the tourists? And I think you're going to be pretty blown away when you find out the answer to that one.
A little teaser there, Dom.
Yeah.
So as a local, when we first heard about the windmills, there was a little bit of we didn't really pay attention, right? We just and the thought of green energy sounded nice, right? But then the more you look at it and study it and realize, I agree. A lot of us.
Well, they want to tell you as little as possible about it, and constantly point to the fact that this is green energy and this is good for communities, and we're going to light up this many households, and jobs. They don't.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they don't talk about that the jobs aren't actually local jobs. They don't talk about that. It'll light up these houses, but it's going to cost double the electric bill.
Right.
They don't talk about how the amount that it costs to get this going in government tax credits that they give to foreign companies. And that's the biggest thing. What really scared me about this was not that I'm scared of, any of these other countries for any particular reason, but why would anybody want to give away control of any utility that they have to a foreign entity, whether it be a foreign government or a foreign company? Why would you ever do that? And what if that company, even a private company, went and sold it to communist China, for example? All of a sudden you have or Russia, or name a country. I don't care. It could be Israel. Why would we ever sell our infrastructure to anybody other than our own local either businesses or state government or federal
especially
government?
Considering the goal of the governor was to have 100% electric dependency on green energy in 50 years or whatever that the time frame was. So at some point in time, it goes from a small percentage to complete dependency, and it's owned by a foreign entity. It makes absolutely no sense.
And then you could get into all the the migratory bird patterns being disrupted, and whales becoming whale species becoming extinct, and just so on and so on. The amount of negativity that goes along with this project that's been discovered and spoken about by people who are professionals in this field, scientists and others. It's just, it's too much. There's no way to get behind supporting this, and at least from my seat.
Yeah. All right. So we don't go too far down.
Moving on.
Question 8. Ocean City, New Jersey would benefit from a new modern hotel/resort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the numbers here are interesting. More disagree than agree, but there's a solid number of people who neither agree nor disagree.
Yep. So
this is one, Jody.
Well, this is one of those questions where I had said in the beginning that I wanted people to be able to read the question, relate to it, and answer it 1, 2, 3. This is one of those questions where I would probably do this differently the next time around, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot to think about when you read this.
Yeah.
I could ask, there's 2 of you right now. One of you is going to have, if you close your eyes and say, Drew, you say to yourself, Drew, draw me a new modern hotel resort somewhere in Ocean City. What does that look like? Well, what it's going to look like to either of the 2 of you is going to be probably completely different. My mother thinks of a, modern hotel resort to be the Borgata Hotel, where some others might think of it as, a new version of the Tahiti Inn, for example, a local Ocean City hotel. So, where is this hotel? How tall is it? What's the capacity of it? How many rooms does it have? Is it blocking a neighborhood's view? Is it bringing hundreds of new cars through a neighborhood in order to get to it? Is it taking the place of other things that are already in town that people are happy for that are here? So it really boils down to, how do you wrap an opinion around? This is a very open question. So, there's my opinion of what this is, and there's people who have animate yes and no answers, of course, when you speak to them in person about this. But, it just boils down to what is it that, how do you envision this question? And that's how they answered. So I don't know what people were thinking when they answered this. It's not like, hey, how do you feel about your taxes? Are they high or low? Very easy. Right away whether you think your taxes are high or low. This is one of those things where it's like, give me some more information first before I think I should answer this.
Yeah, very interpretive question.
Yeah. So I think it leaves a lot to be desired with knowing. There's a lot of hotels in town. They're smaller. They're lodge style hotels from the the 60s. There hasn't been a new hotel built in Ocean City in I think the last time I heard was maybe 28 years or something like that. But a lot of hotels have been sold, over that course of time that were here that have become, condos, for example.
Yep.
Would we benefit from a new hotel? Yeah, of course. I think we would benefit from a new hotel, but it could also hurt us in certain ways. It just depends on what it is, where it is, what it looks like. Not too long ago, a hotel was pitched to the city at a city council meeting. And I'm not sure if any of you were familiar with that. That obviously didn't have such rave reviews from the public.
Yeah,
and it went away.
We actually did an episode on that, Jody.
Yeah.
And there was a split decision from Dom and I.
Okay.
Dom was very much in favor. And when I took your survey, I answered positively to Ocean City benefiting from a new hotel. I was very negative about the location of that hotel.
Yeah.
That 5th and 6th Street taking that public land. I did not like that location, but Dom was in favor.
I just, there's some concerns, of course, that I would have, and it really has to do with mass style. I think, anybody building a boutique style hotel, I would have no problem with it all, as long as, of course, it has the proper parking accommodations. If you're building a 90 unit hotel, you got to have 90 parking spaces. You can't build a 90 unit hotel and show me a couple dozen parking spaces and that's it. That's not fair to your community. That's not fair to your neighborhood. And that's very impactful in my opinion.
Sure.
So, proper parking, proper height, proper, there's a lot of things that you got to consider here when you talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Question 9. Keeping our island dry of alcohol, including BYOB, is our secret sauce and should not ever change.
I was a little scared. I was a little scared. I was hoping. Yeah, because this could have easily, possibly, been where the same amount of people agree, disagree, particularly if they're thinking purely BYOB.
Yeah, and that's not the case. That's not the results of the survey.
That is not the results.
Overwhelmingly agree that we should be dry. Yeah.
Overwhelmingly. And this sort of connects in a way to the whole hotel conversation too. Now, granted, a developer can't just come and say, hey, I got land, I'm going to open a hotel. I'm going to build a hotel here in Ocean City. And, hold on one second. I'm sorry, guys.
Sure.
Here, I got some noise.
We've had those issues before, have we not, Dom?
We have.
No, it's funny. Apparently Moses wasn't into the podcast too much, so I had to kick him out of the room. Yeah, so this is one of those things that kind of relates, kind of goes into with the whole thought on hotels in a way, because there's a little more to it than what I'm about to say. But in New Jersey, if you have 100-unit hotel that you're building, you could be a fully endorsed for New Jersey state liquor license, full use liquor license. Would they still have to go through the proper channels in Ocean City to get city council to amend certain zoning rules and restrictions? Yeah, absolutely. But, depending on who's sitting on your board here and who your elected officials are, it's a 4-3 vote. So that can go any which way. All it would take is 4 people to say, hey, we believe in this developer's idea and this developer's concept, and it's not worth it for him to build a hotel less than 100 units. And it's certainly not worth it for him to open it up as a resort, a world-class resort, without having a state-sponsored liquor license. And that's pretty fair to say. I've been to a lot of resorts, a lot of hotels in my life. I've pretty well traveled. Never been to a hotel or a resort that was considered 5-star that didn't have a full-use liquor license somewhere on the property.
Sure.
Or throughout the entire property in many different ways, whether it be a pool bar or it be a nightclub. There's a lot of different things that hotels do to make their hotels 5-star resorts. So could that happen in Ocean City? Of course it could happen here. A 4-3 vote of people in our government that believe that that's a good idea is all it needs to really do it.
But based on this survey, if that were the case, those 4 people would be run out of town on a rail. Right.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
I don't
You're
know.
That's probably right.
That you got me thinking with that one, Jody. Like, if it's confined within the hotel, it can only be done and alcohol only available within the hotel and the resort itself. The resort almost becomes like a
private
Vatican City type situation where it's its own little entity within a larger country.
Sure.
So that might be interesting.
But then the argument's going to be the slippery slope argument, right?
Well, no, because
if it's allowed there, then why can't it be allowed here? And then why can't it be allowed?
Because you're not 100 plus room hotel.
Well, that's where you'll see the development of those begin, and that's where I start to stagger too. So I agree with what you're saying. Sure. What's the harm? You got a great developer, you get a great property, you could bring a bunch of new ratables into Ocean City, bring new guests in year round, have new events in Ocean City, things like that. I see all that positive. But the only way for the developer to do it is if they have a liquor license. I'm just hypothetically speaking. They have a liquor license and we contain it to that. Well, I'm not sure. Well, I know which one I hate more. I hate liquor being in Ocean City more than I hate monopolies. But monopolies is in a close second. So what I'm doing there is I'm doing the two things that I really hate the most. I'm granting a liquor license in the city that I believe, and almost 80% of the people or so that I polled believe is our secret sauce. But in doing so, I'm also giving a monopoly to a certain operator, and I don't like that. I don't think that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah, maybe we can use some of the I'm just thinking outside the box here, not to get any further into the weeds in this question, but maybe we somehow figure out how to have daily memberships to a dinner club within the restaurant or something along those lines. Just thinking here. Thinking.
Well, you could do that. You don't need any special permission or any, you don't need to build a hotel to do that. You could be Jilly's Arcade and, host a beer and games night if you wanted to, and have the private video game club. That stuff already goes on for the most part around the island.
I would be down with that 100%. That would be super fun.
For the record, we haven't done
Tom
that.
loves your arcade.
Dude, I used to go to I would work in Atlantic City. I'd bartend on Sunday nights. I'd get home around like 2:00 in the morning, and you were the only place that was open. And I would go there, and my bar, we still had prices from like the 40s, so we would have quarters, and I'd leave with a big fat stack of quarters, and I would just go play video games because why not? I was wide awake from.
We could rename it to Jilly's Barcade, right?
Dude, you're on something here. You're on something.
But hypothetically speaking, it's fun. It's fun and funny to talk about it. But in reality, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't look forward to doing it. I lived in Manhattan for about 12 years, and I was also my job growing up. I was a DJ. I did it for a long time. I did it through college into my 20s. I performed and worked at various different nightclubs and different bars and things like that. So if I wanted to be, I had the opportunity. If I wanted to be in the liquor business or in the nightclub style business, not that the ship has sailed. I chose to not get on that ship. I chose to not go into that business. I chose to give up things in other towns, particularly other boardwalk towns like Wildwood and what have you, because I didn't want to surround my business with any of that type of thing. And it's just a different environment because we don't have that. 100%. We don't have it here. It's just completely different. And it's like I love riding around town and we see advertisements for all of the mom and pop. I think the mom and pop thing of Ocean City is the real essence of this town. You go into your favorite store, odds are you're going to meet or see the owner, right? And I really love that about our town, that small town charm. Once liquor starts to invade a town, particularly a busy town, and I don't know if you know this, Ocean City becomes the second most dense, busiest city in the entire state of New Jersey during the summer. So we beat out towns like Camden, Atlantic City, Jersey City. These are all pretty populated towns. We beat them out for 2 months out of the year with our little, 150 member police department. And we're able to handle, can you imagine if we started infusing, having liquor now served to the public or, it would just be a change of scenery. And I don't want to see I don't want to mention any liquor companies, but I wouldn't want to see liquor signs and liquor posters and liquor billboards and things like that all around the town. Those type of companies and the marketing companies that represent them, like Absolute or Patron, like these companies that have huge dollars behind them, they would love to see their billboard in a city like Ocean City. Why? I just told you, we're the second busiest city in New Jersey. There'll be more eyes on their brand here than anywhere. So those marketing dollars are worth a fortune for them to bring that here. So there's just so many reasons to keep the alcohol out of this town. It would change here very fast.
I think the bottom line is in your question, Jody. I think it is our secret sauce.
Absolutely.
Right? It is our secret sauce.
Once you come here, you're coming here again. It's a repeat style place. And I'm sorry. I truly believe I've got this call the data, whatever you want, but I've got this data to back up what I think to be true. And quite honestly, I think this number sadly might go down a little bit over time because I think that there is more of a call from some of the younger families that have moved into Ocean City that are looking for like BYOB and things like that. But, because it does come a little boring here in that regard, but it's it's just not a good idea. And I think once you've lived here for a year or two, you realize that.
Yeah.
Your mind
All right.
changes.
Speaking of data, let's move on. So question number 10, my street or street in my neighborhood has been negatively impacted by selfish overdevelopment.
Mm-hmm.
And the results here are a little surprising in that the majority of respondents neither agreed or disagreed. So again, they're probably the vacationers and maybe even the second homeowners. Yep. More people agreed than disagreed. But if you read social media, you would think that the agree and strongly agree would be overwhelming, and it's not the case.
Well, negativity is always, when you go on social media, negativity is always going to take, the captain's seat over positivity. So it's a lot easier to complain about things than it is to compliment things when you go on a social media channel, and of course to get others to harp on it. But I got to say, this is one of those questions. Also, it's kind of like the hotel question, where it's what's selfish overdevelopment? Some people think my house is selfish overdeveloped because it's way taller than the Cape Cod house that they feel should be, the type of house only that's built in Ocean City. Nothing bigger than a traditional Cape Cod house.
Right. Right.
So you ask those folks, they think it's selfish overdevelopment. And everybody's got a different idea of what selfish overdevelopment is. For me, selfish overdevelopment is when, and this is, again, I'm not relying on the statistics here because I just think this could have gone a lot of ways if you knew exactly what I was sort of implying here by this. Selfish overdevelopment, in my opinion, is, first of all, I feel that when you own your property and there's zoning rules around it, you have a right to do whatever you want to with your property as long as you're within the rules, within the zoning rules. And if you have a challenge and you've got an issue, that's why we have a zoning board. That's why you go to the zoning board and you have them decide whether you have a real issue there to be able to grant you a variance, to be able to do what it is that you want to do with your property. And it's done fairly, and it's done in an open hearing. And and you've got your peers that are on that board as volunteers to be able to help decide of how that'll go. Okay, that is what I feel is regular course of development. Selfish overdevelopment is when you take a property and you have infiltrated the zoning rules that we have here, and you've figured out a way to craft variances that work in your favor or in your client's favor to be able to overdevelop their property. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. For example, there were some developers that were out there. They figured out a way to be able to build the house as big as they want. Fine. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that the home would be 6-7 bedrooms. Okay. And then they have the required parking, and then they're building a pool as well. All that's fine. Until they start closing off the pool and the pool deck. And the pool deck serves as two things. It serves as a pool deck and it serves as parking spots. I don't know anybody that owns a pool that is going to park a car on their pool deck. Right. So what winds up happening is the cars move from the would-be driveway, but now pool deck, onto the street. And so if you're a 6 or 7 bedroom house, you probably have 3 cars or more. You probably have visitors, and you've got potentially 3 to 5 to 6 to 7 cars that could be at your house at any given time, never on the driveway. Why? Because you skirted the zoning rules, and you created no parking in place of a killer backyard and killer pool deck. Now, it's a bit of a challenge as the zoning officer in town. It's a bit of a challenge because you can't, here's what it boils down to. You can't force somebody to park on their driveway, right? So you could have 7 cars and just park them all over your street. You can't be forced to park in your driveway. Of course, you could go use your driveway to shoot basketball and play hockey or do whatever you do on your driveway or have a barbecue or what have you. But that's temporary things. Building a pool deck and taking away your parking space and taking away your garage to make it into a permanent pool house with all the pool equipment and everything else. It is selfish It's overdevelopment, it's skirting the zoning rules, and it's disrespectful to your neighbors. And that's the type of development that negatively impacts a neighborhood. And so I was curious to see how much of that is going on, or how much is perceived to be going on by the people that live in the neighborhoods. How often does that happen? And I honestly thought the answer might have been a little bit higher, again, because of social, the social media complainer types. That example that I just gave with the pool, part of being on the planning board and being on council for a few years and getting to understand these challenges and getting to know the other elected officials a bit, we were able to fix this. We took this to the planning board. We took this to council, and we had our attorneys, our city attorneys write up some new legislation about this. So it makes it more difficult for a developer to have to skirt these rules. And and that's always going to be
here, Jody, that you did that. Yeah. I don't know that was really highly publicized, to be honest with you.
No,
I sort of remember hearing about it, but I didn't really 100% understand what you did.
It was really a first reading and a second reading, at city council. And of course there's a, man, you got me on the tip of my tongue right now, but there's a consistency report, it's called, that goes between city council and a subcommittee for the planning board and the planning board itself. And that way everybody's on the same page and, really looks at the stuff. And it goes through various professionals as well. The city has professionals from all walks of life that, that get their hands on this stuff. So, it's always going to be that game. If you're a developer, you're trying to, and I get it. I understand. A developer wants to do for their client the most they possibly can. They want to deliver to their client the most for that property, on that property, the most that they possibly can. But, you get to a point where it becomes an issue for the neighborhood. And it really hit home for me when one gentleman in my ward had called me with his challenge and said, look, I've got one property on the north side of me and one property on the south side of me. Each of them are 7-bedroom homes. None of them have one parking space. You got to come take a look at this. And that's how it all started. I started noticing it a lot more throughout town. I started getting similar phone calls, and within a few months, we had a solution.
That's great. And I agree. I'm all for property rights.
Yeah,
all
totally
for property rights. But as you said, there are zoning rules for a reason. And I think if we all played by those rules, we'd be okay.
Yep.
But you're right. It seems over the years, there's been quite a few people who somehow got around those rules.
And what we talked about in the beginning, the parking challenges, this stuff all ties in together. So for example, if where's your parking challenge? Are we going into the neighborhoods or are we going into the downtown? So if you're in my neighborhood, for example, if you're in the Riviera district in the 3rd ward, there's parking challenges all over the place on some of these streets. Probably Walnut is probably one of the most notorious streets with parking challenges. And a lot of it has to do with people have developed their homes where they don't use they have their driveways in most of the cases on a street like Walnut, for example, along the back of their property and along the alley that's back there. And a lot of kids like to go play out back there, and that's great and all that. But a lot of people have, not only stopped using their driveways for their cars, but they can't even use their driveway for the car if they wanted to because they fenced in their driveway.
Right.
And they can't even fit a car through the fence. So you've now got that particular house with 3, 4, 5 cars sitting out on a tight street to begin with. And it starts to become, you do that in every other house, it starts to become,
you have a neighborhood problem. Yeah.
A major parking problem, but maybe the problem isn't a parking problem that the city is causing and can't do anything about it. It's self-inflicted. It's a problem what the neighborhood is causing to themselves by selfishly overdeveloping their home or their driveway. And, so there's only so much your city could do for you when you're sort of instigating your own problem.
Right. Interesting.
So, so when it boils down to the way people answered the questions about parking, where was their head at? Were they thinking, man, I'm driving around all day long, I can't find a parking lot to go to the beach or boardwalk or, my favorite store or CVS or, wherever it is they're going. Or is it that they're coming home and they have a rough time just being able to park in front of their house? I think it's both. I think the problem exists both ways. And, when I said that we're doing things about it, this legislation that I mentioned is one small part of the things that we're doing about it.
Great. Okay, question 11. Overall, I'm happy with my local elected officials in Ocean City.
Yeah, I mean, how could you
so
not?
This
love
has
us?
To make you feel good. You have a big approval, big agree and strongly agree, and small disagree and strongly disagree, and then again, all of your visitors and second homeowners are middle of the road. So that must make you feel good.
Yeah. I think this is, I'll take it. I mean, it's at least double the people who agree than the people who disagree. I'm glad to see there's people who disagree, because I wouldn't want to ever get us caught up too much in thinking we're doing such a great job. And, you're always going to have some people who are unhappy about things. And, that's why I got a phone, I suppose. So you could call me and let me know what I'm missing here. The people who don't agree with us that we're doing a good job, or that they're happy with us. I want to hear from them. And what was good about that is that directly after after this was over, we had a fill in the blank space where people could mention something that maybe was not in this. And I actually had more than 50%. So I think it was 1,300 something responses.
Wow, really?
People who filled in the blank. But they're not all real responses. There were a couple hundred of them that were just thank you, like along the lines of thank you for doing this. That was the most common response. But you had others that were addressing things, and that's something it takes a long time to look at. You got 1,300 some odd people giving unique responses. Let's just say 1,000, because I think it was about 300 of them were just purely thank you. You got 1,000 responses there. What we started doing, Drew, is, we put it all into a spreadsheet. Spreadsheets are fun, and you just use some tools to find like words. So you can start sorting it to see, how many people gave this advice, how many people, you kind of you want to see where the similarities are in the responses. Sure. So if you had 40 people mention, something particular, hey, do a better job cleaning our beaches. 40 people would have said that, for example. That's something to really, really think about. I don't think I saw that anywhere. I think we have some of the cleanest beaches in New Jersey since I mentioned it. We don't have a clean the beach problem. But it's things like that where we sorted it out, and that's another part of this that I'll be getting to as time goes on over the next couple months, to really dive into those, at least the ones that were mentioned several times, that carry some weight.
Good stuff. So that was 11 questions, and then the fill in the blank. Interesting survey, Jody.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
pretty interesting responses, really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there was anything here that was like a mind blowing, surprised, really knocked me off my chair as to how any of this went. I think it was pretty predictable, and that all goes back to when you live in Ocean City a long time, you live here, you work here, you're elected here, all that sort of thing. You got to know, you got to be able to kind of predict, and it was just good to do this. And even if I was wrong in some of these where it would have been different, it's just good feedback, and you want that when you're going to lead a city and you got to answer to people. You got to know what the overall expectation level is of what people are hoping out of to happen here and what goes on.
And even though you expected what you saw, it's good to back all that up with data.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. For the most part, it was. I mean, there were a few that were, either a little lighter or heavier than I would have expected. But I mean, I got really, for the most part, it was pretty close. It was pretty close. It's really the most fun when you break it down and you say, "Hey, how did how does the locals answer overall compared to the tourists?"
Right.
And it's really not that much difference, but so you see where of course you're going to have who answered the more likely out of any group in any particular question, but they're pretty close.
And so is that level of data available on your website, or just kind of the broad summary?
You know what? If it's not up there, we just loaded it up yesterday, and I don't know if we loaded up all 5 on top of this. If we didn't, it will be.
Okay. So
yeah,
that
it'll be up by
website,
tomorrow.
what is your website again?
It's Jody, JODY, the number 4 council.com.
Jody4council.com. So if anyone
Jody
really wants to dive into the survey and look at how residents versus second homeowners versus visitors versus business owners answered all the various questions, that info's out there.
That's right.
Good. Well, I know we're going to wrap it up because I know your daughters are waiting for you to take them out to dinner, and
where should we go?
held you longer than. Where should you go?
Where should we go?
Well, I have not been there yet, but I'm hearing good things. If you like Mexican food, Mexicali, is that the name of it? Just opened where the old Clancy's was in Summers Point.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. If you like Mexican food, I'm hearing good things about them.
Okay. Wow.
My defaults are Express Pizza, Yanni's, Saka Subs, and Diorio.
Yeah. They're
easy
places.
Yeah.
There's one place in particular that everybody's got to try the buffalo chicken sandwich at the Anchorage.
Yes.
I can't talk enough about
it's as big as your head, right?
It's Jill and I, we share it when we go, and it's still like we didn't even get to the bread yet. Bring home a whole sandwich. It's delicious. The pickle, the whole 9 yards. It's really good.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna play. I think we're gonna play a little. Throw the dice. Whoever's got the highest number gets to choose the restaurant style.
Oh, that's
tonight.
fun. That's fun. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Got to keep it fair, and you got a 10 and a 9-year-old. Somehow it's not fair, no matter what you do.
Is Jill going with you, or is it just the kids?
No, she'll come. Jill and I will take the 3. It's our 2 daughters, and they got a friend. One of them's got a friend over, so there's always a friend here. There's always somebody here. This place is like a revolving door. It's unbelievable.
And it sounds like you are outnumbered, my friend.
And it's always girls in this house.
Right.
So.
You are outnumbered.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good. I'm very lucky. My kids are great. It's all good. They don't give me too hard of a time.
And,
awesome.
And your wife is great.
When they do, I tell them they can't have hot chickens. Then that's it. I'm punished. No.
Well, thank you, Jody. We greatly appreciate you.
Thank you
coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I had a great time.
Yeah, great. Dom?
Yeah, great information. Thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, take care. We'll do it again sometime. Maybe I'll get a podcast going. I'll have you guys on.
Sounds good.
And we'll
let me know when you start the beercade. I'm in.
Yeah, we'll probably see you again in April or May. Prior to the election, we plan on having the candidates on, and
that's a great idea. You should.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Good night.
You too. Thanks, Jody.
See ya.
Take care. All right. Well,
good stuff.
Yeah, it's very.
And as you said, I give them credit for putting that out there. Most politicians don't bother hearing from their constituents.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this show today. Went a little bit longer than normal, but hey, lots of good information, lots of good insight into, what everyone feels about this magical place called Ocean City. So if you haven't already, or if you're just listening and you want to take a closer look and break down the survey, you can go to jody4council.com. JODY, the number 4, council.com, and check out all of the data for the survey. It's a pretty interesting breakdown.
Yeah.
I was a little upset about that hotel question, Drew. I can't believe so many people didn't want the hotel. But interesting to know about the liquor license. That was definitely something to think
about. The alcohol. Yeah.
So, well, until next time, everyone, this has been the OCNJ Local, your podcast for everything happening here in America's greatest family resort. We're your hosts, Dominic Doherty and Drew Fazy.
And we are your local guys.
Peace out, everybody.
Fans first, baby.